tossers have thrown it out the door with their behaviour this week. They should be ashamed of themselves. They should absolutely look at themselves in the mirror and wonder what the have they been doing. They're hissing at us and calling us cheats in the Lord's long room, and they have the gall to say, talk to us about the spirit of cricket. Absolute bullshit.
There's a big appeal that's hit him on the pad. He's out. Lions gone. New South Wales are 9 down. Onto Sydney Road, and it's hit a car. Oh, I think it's hit a car. What a way to bring up your 50.
All you want is to leave it all behind. Now there is a simple remedy to stay fit for all eternity.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Cricket Unfiltered podcast. Well, Steve Smith is back. Travis Head continues to torment this Indian team, and Australia have had a memorable day at the Gabba. Joining me from India to talk about it is Chandresh Narayanan. Chandresh, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm very well, Manas. How are you?
Elated. One of my favourite things in cricket is watching Steve Smith bat, and to see him make 100 after a year and a half, when it looked for a while there we might not see another 100. It was beautiful stuff, and we've been so lucky in this series. We've seen a Kohli masterclass. Now we've seen a Smith masterclass. Really something for the purists.
Absolutely. It was a fantastic effort by Steve Smith, and I think that for India, I think Travis Head has become a headache. So I think that it's becoming, it's got to that stage now where it's getting desperate for India, and I think a lot of that has got to do with some very unimaginative captaincy by Rohit Sharma. And I think the fact that he's not scoring runs is reflecting in the way he's leading the side. I think questions are going to be asked very soon, and he is going to find it very difficult to walk away from this particular situation. I have a very strong feeling we are in the final stretch of Rohit Sharma as a Test cricketer and a Test captain.
Well, I think you might be right. I mean, it's been very lackluster at times by India in the field. They've certainly taken, when Bumrah's not bowling, it just looks like a different game. And I guess it's up to the skipper, Rohit Sharma, to try and make things happen. Let's go back to the start of play. Australia were none for 28 when play started. They finished 7 for 405. Australia scored 377 runs in the day. They went at over 4 runs per over all day. So stick that one up your Baz ball. Australia can do it as well. At one stage, Australia were 3 for 75. Then Head and Smith combined for a 241-run partnership. Travis Head made 152. Those two took the match away from India, and after they were dismissed, Alex Carey made 45, Pat Cummins made 20. But Chandresh, it started well for India. They dismissed Khawaja, McSweeney, and Marnus pretty quickly, and it looked like maybe it was going to be the same old story for the Australian batting. But then, as you say, Travis Head, who's done it so often, just took the game away from India.
Absolutely. And I think you spoke about it. I think the problem for India has been the team selection. I think the mistakes that they made in the previous test match were the mistakes of the batters, but they ended up making changes in the bowling. And that is because you can't touch Virat Kohli. He scored 100. You can't touch a Rohit Sharma because he's the captain. Jaiswal scored a 150 in the first test match. Shubman Gill was playing his first test match, so you can excuse him for not scoring runs in the second test match. So you're basically down to making changes to the bowling. And it reflected in the way India bowled today, because Jasprit Bumrah has been in top form. Mohammad Siraj has been blowing hot, blowing cold. He's been all over the place, bowling like a millionaire. Then you have Akashdeep, who's playing his 5th or 6th test match, and he bowled quite well. But then there is no one else, because what has happened is that you've gone to Ravindra Jadeja, who is at best a defensive option in such conditions. You can't expect him to do a Shane Warne in such conditions because he's not that kind of a bowler. He's basically a defensive option, and that's what it showed up. But that didn't matter much because he was also taken for runs. And then you have the young Nitish Kumar Reddy, who is still finding his way in international cricket, and he picked up a wicket once again. So it was down to basically about two and a half bowlers, and it reflected in the way India responded to the situation. And I think it is very dire for India in this particular series because now, if they don't get a fit again, Shami back in the lineup, it's going to get very difficult for India in this series. And the proud 10-year-old record of India is in danger of being snatched by Australia because they were hurting, and it showed in the way they responded in this particular Test series after losing the first Test match. I might add, I think it's all got down to the way Rohit Sharma has been leading from the front, and I am convinced that his time is up in international cricket.
Well, it seemed like Siraj also seemed to get an injury or something happened to him in the first session, which really didn't help India. And then, as I said, without Bumrah bowling, it was a different game. Australia went to the lunch break at 3 for 104. And the game was in the balance. Then Rohit Sharma won the toss, sent Australia in, but then we saw Steve Smith slowly get better and better and better as that innings went on. I mean, that's something that's scary for India because Smith, in the first sort of 20, 30 runs, he was moving across his crease quite early. He was scoring slowly, but then as his innings went on, he looked better and better. We saw him, playing beautiful cover drives, beautiful pull shots, one great on drive. So Smith, that was his 33rd Test century. He goes past Steve Ward's 32 Test hundreds. He's now just 8 centuries behind Ricky Ponting's Australian record of 41. So superb 100 for Steve Smith. He'd taken him 26 innings to score 100 after scoring one in Lords last year. So Chandresh, as you know, you've seen Smith do this to India many, many times, but he looked great by the end.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's the scary part for India because you brought him back into form,
Yeah.
and that is a very very scary situation, and it was down to some unimaginative captaincy. Even late in the day, you had deep set fields for Stark. For goodness sake, Stark is a lower order batter. And this is a problem that I have with all Indian captains over the years, more so with Rohit Sharma, because he's a great white ball captain.
Yeah.
But when it comes to a longer format, I have a feeling that I don't think he has the patience or the ability to stick to a plan. That's the key in Test match cricket. You need to be patient enough to stick to a plan and let things develop. India did not have too many
Well,
overs
what
when
was what was Siraj doing to head with the short balls? There was
yeah,
no
just
third down there, and he just
yeah,
kept trying it. They were
yeah.
bowling to the wrong field.
And my question is, they have four assistant coaches, include and the head coach and the analyst. For God's sake, someone need to have word with Siraj. Someone needed to have sent some message. There are so many ways to send message to Siraj. The
Yeah,
captain, what was he doing? He was not aware of the situation.
yeah.
That's mind-boggling for me. And I think it raises serious questions about Morne Mokkal, the India's bowling coach. What was he doing? Why is that not ringing a bell in his head? Why is he not sending out a message? And I think all the gains that India had at the start of the series after winning the first test match has been frittered away because of some very unimaginative captaincy, and also because of the fact that they have not got their selection right. I know it's very easy for me to comment in hindsight because a similar lineup won the first test match for India, but I think uh, Ravindra Jadeja didn't make any sense to me in this lineup, especially in these conditions. And I seriously think that India should have batted first. I knew that India would bowl first if they win the toss, looking at the conditions. And I seriously think that stems from the fact that Rohit Sharma was not in the best of form. If he was in form, he would have taken on the conditions head on.
Yeah, it's interesting because it has turned out to be, pretty decent batting conditions in the Gabba. And I want to talk about the state of the Test series because I don't think it's gone for India. I still think they're a chance at retaining it, but they've got to come up with plans against Travis Head. He brought up his ninth Test century, his third versus India of just 115 balls, and it spoke about Smith's century before. That was Smith's 10th century versus India, equal with Joe Root. Again, two players that have tormented India. You think back to the World Test Championship final. Head and Smith has been doing. Smith has been doing it for many, many years. So it was probably nightmare stuff for Indian fans. I was talking about Smith's 33rd Test ton, and I was comparing it to other Australians of hundreds per innings. And Steve Smith has a great strike rate. So he went past Steve Waugh, who scored a century every 8.1 innings. But then, above Steve Smith is Ricky Ponting in first place. He scored a century every 7 innings. Smith is scoring a century every 6 innings. So he's got 33 now. Then below Smith is Hayden, who scored 30 centuries every 6.1 innings. And then below that is a bloke called Don Bradman, who scored a century every 2.75 innings. Just incredible. So, Chandresh, where do you think Steve Smith sits in the sort of pantheon of great test batters of this generation?
I think he's right there at the top. I know that Darren Lehman made a comment about Joe Root and then had to come out and clarify once again. And I think in terms of batting, you know, Steve Smith is not an artist with the bat like, say, a Mark Waugh or a VVS Lakshman, or dare I say, a Zahir Abbas or a VVS or a Mohammad Azharuddin. But
Yeah.
he has a style of his own. He has a
Mm,
method of his own. And at the end of the day, it's all about scoring runs. It doesn't matter
yeah.
whether it looks pretty when he's scoring a boundary. And I think that his numbers speak for itself. Steve Waugh was not a great person to watch while he was batting towards the later half of his career. And I think that Steve Smith is effective, and that's what matters in the end. And he's right there at the top. But the way he fought back is amazing. He was willing to challenge himself by opening the batting. Remember, we had a chat, and I said that I don't think he should be opening, and he's not opening,
Yeah.
thankfully. And I think the fact that he was willing to challenge himself and bat out of his comfort zone tells you that he's willing to, like, put himself uh, uh,
Put the
in the
team
firing
ahead of
line.
him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
put the
yeah,
team ahead of himself, and I think that
yeah.
that's a very good sign. And I think he's a very, very good batter, and he's been a very successful Test batter. And Australia has been very lucky. World cricket's been very lucky for him
Mm,
to find a second win, because remember, he started off as a leg spinner, and people used to wonder what is he doing and what is he going to do. For him to end up with so many hundreds tells you that he was willing to challenge himself, change, and you see the results.
absolutely. So, yeah, I was so relieved to see him get that century. He was very emotional when he got it. And I think, he and Travis Head are the perfect sort of rhythmical partnership because, Head's crashing boundaries and Smith is working the strike, nudging singles, getting Head back onto strike. But Australia went to two for 234, and this is where, Chandresh, I think you've got a point. Rohit Sharma in India just let that last session slip completely. Although they took wickets and Jasper Bumrah did his thing, dismissing, Smith, Marsh, and Head very quickly, Australia still scored 171 runs in that last session. Although, it was a longer session because they had the extra half an hour, but it just got away from India. And they did take wickets. They, as I said, they took the big three, and they got Pat Cummins just before stumps. But that was woeful from India, and even Rowett dropped Head just after the tea break. It just got away from them. Australia scored a lot of easy runs in that last sort of session.
I think it stems from the fact that Rohit Sharma has done a lot of white ball captaincy,
Mm.
and you saw similar approach from Mahendra Singh Dhoni as well. I'm sure that people who are watching this podcast or listening to us will not agree with me, will be trolling me left, right, and center. But it's a fact that Rohit Sharma, Mahendra Singh Dhoni, they're all great white ball captains. But when it comes to Test match cricket, you need to be patient. You need to stick to a plan. It's not the 45th over of a one day international innings where there are just 5 overs left and you need to spread the field and you're worried about the batters going hammer and tongs. You need to be having a plan. And the problem that I have, and this is the problem that I had even in the first test match when India ended up winning the test match, and I got trolled for my comments, is that when the tail comes in, it's almost as if you're only looking to get one man out and not the other man out. So you
Mm.
sort of start spreading the field, and you're giving just too much respect to Mitchell Stark or to Pat Cummins. And before the series, I commented, I tweeted about it as well, or posted about it on X, that I think that more than with the ball, people like Pat Cummins and Alex Carey and Mitchell Stark will hurt India with the bat. And
It happened
people say
tonight.
it happened tonight, and
I
I
mean, that
tweeted
I
about.
think Carey and Cummins put on 50, and they did it easy. I think 51 off about 61 balls. As you say, this field was spread, easy singles. They found the boundary, and they weren't really challenged. No short stuff. No, nothing. It was just very. It was too easy. It was like India had given up.
Yeah, and it sort of again makes me wonder what is the analyst doing. We've had the same analyst for about 3 4 years, so he's seen a lot of Travis Head. Surely he needs to be giving information to the bowling coach, to the head coach. We've got four assistant coaches, plus you've got Gautam Gambhir as the head coach. You've got an analyst. You've got the experienced
I mean,
Virat
they've seen
Kohli,
enough. They've seen enough of Head now to have a plan.
and he scored against India off the white ball, pink ball, red
Yep,
ball. What more do you need to know about him?
I know.
Uh, so
I know.
I think that it really baffles me,
And
and
that
it also I think Manas, I think the problem also has been the fact that I know people will not like me saying this, but Siraj came through a system, as in like he played a lot of red ball cricket for his state side Hyderabad, and then played a lot of cricket for India A in red ball. Picked up lots of wickets with red ball, and that's how he came through. So he graduated to the Test lineup.
Yep.
This particular team, you've got guys who have come in with who are light on red ball experience. Harshit Rana is a prime example because during the COVID era, there was almost an abridged Ranji Trophy, or there was no Ranji Trophy at all, and there was no India A tours. So the graduation process for the younger bowlers who want to graduate from domestic to Test lineup was not there. So there is no pathway system as such because of COVID, and that is telling on the in the performance. In terms of white ball, India has no problem whatsoever because
Because of
you've
the
got a
IPL.
IPL, you've got T20 cricket, and
Yeah.
you've got lots of other options in white ball
Certainly not the
cricket.
same depth that you had last tour you came here, and it doesn't make sense.
Absolutely,
So
and so India was in a hurry to like start the transition process in the
yeah,
fast bowling department. So you had a Ishan Sharma and Umesh Yadav going away, and that's telling on the bowling lineup. And it's only down to Bumrah because Shami is still not fit. He's not played any cricket for
it's
India
true.
for a year.
Yeah, you're right. Harshit Rana was pretty bad, and Akash Deep, he was okay, but he's got a long way to go. So Australia finished 7 for 405. There was some talk that maybe they would think about declaring the innings. And of that seven, just to reinforce how dominant Bumrah is, he took his 12th five-wicket haul, finished with 5 for 72. Again, exceptional. Siraj took one wicket, Reddy took the other. But right, behind Bumrah, there's just not much. So Australia, there was some talk maybe that Australia would declare maybe in bowl on the second afternoon. I didn't think that was a good idea because I still think the pitch is good enough that Australia, you want at least sort of 450, 400, 450 before you declare. So even though there's rain forecast, there's not much you can do about it because if you declare too early, then India maybe only needs to bat once to, make you bat last on day 5, which is not a good situation for Australia. So I think Australia did the right thing. They took advantage of some sloppy Indian play. They scored quickly, and now they can declare, early on day 3, depending on the rain, and have a good go at India. Is that what you think?
I think, yeah, I think that would be the case. And Remember, India in 3 of the 4 innings on this tour has not batted much.
No,
The Perth Test match second innings was the only time that they batted long enough. But overall, if you see, they haven't batted long enough.
and there's still good
So
bounce on that pitch.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
still
yeah,
good bounce.
yeah. So I don't know if they'll have enough. If they have enough fight in their stomach to sort of take on this Aussie challenge,
Mm,
and Australia will have the pressure. Will have the luxury of putting the pressure of fielders around the bat with so much runs on the board. The only thing that will help India is the fact that it might rain, and
yep,
I've been looking at the forecast, and it shows that it will rain.
a lot.
But it was supposed to rain today as well, but it didn't. But tomorrow, day after, it's supposed to rain a lot. So that could be the only saving grace for India. But it tells you that come to that situation after starting of the series well, that India is down to depending on the rain to get themselves out of trouble.
Yep. I think the rain certainly suits India. The fact that India hold the Border Gavaskar Trophy, the fact that the series is 1-1. Actually, a draw is bad for both teams for the World Test Championship final,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure how willing either captain will be to risk the
Hmm.
risk the series for it. But we'll see. We'll certainly see if there is a chance at a result, how funky the captains get. But this is if it rains here and India get a draw, this is good for them. They go away. They just win one of the next two, and they take home the trophy. Australia, still chasing the series. So I think despite having a very bad day today, India, and I think they really probably missed Ashwin. They probably should have played Ashwin instead of Jadeja. Um, yeah, I still think if it rains over the next few days, India can still go home with the trophy.
Uh, Possibly, but I think i- something's got to give for India.
Mm.
Something's got to give because it's just uh, pretty sloppy in my view. And last time was a miracle, the last tour. Uh, but that also stemmed from the fact that Ajinkya Rahane was leading from the front. He was scoring runs. Uh, this time, I don't see.
You just want row it out. Just goodbye row it.
Yeah, I think that it's time up. I think
Yeah.
I'm sorry to be direct, but I think it's time up. I think he's looking lost. He's looking very, very disjointed on the field, and I
India
think that's
misses Virat Kohli's fire. I know Virat Kohli's captaincy was, had its ups and downs, but he was passionate. He'd be firing these lads up. I mean, if I reckon he wouldn't take some of that sloppiness he saw in the last session.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think that though on his under his captaincy as well, India struggled in England. Even though the way he and Ravi Shastri functioned was that even if they lost the series 4-1 in England in 2018,
Yeah.
came out all guns firing almost to say that it was a close series. 4-1 doesn't reflect the nature of the series. So that was his style, and I think you miss that kind of a character, a charismatic character, somebody with a sort of personality who can rally the troops along. Um, and Rohit Sharma is a great white ball captain. I think he's a fantastic white ball captain, but so was Mahendra Singh Dhoni. But when it
So
came to Test cricket,
yeah.
I think that Virat Kohli was head and shoulders above both these gentlemen.
Mm. Yeah. Some people are questioning Sharma's fitness, and I have to say he doesn't look in particularly top shape at the moment. All right, so we talk about Sharma. Another, before we end this, just some concerns for Australia. So a great day, so good to have Steve Smith back, 33rd 100. Travis Head continues to just pulverise India, but still, there are question marks over Australia's top order. Khawaja was out again early, good ball, but still. He's only averaging 25 at Test cricket this year. He'll be 38, I think, next week or very, very shortly. Nathan McSweeney's only averaging 17 in this series. So I think there are genuine concerns for Australian top order and genuine questions for the selectors. Do they do the do they just axe Kawaja now and bring in a youngster to blood him, or do they stick with Kawaja and maybe think we'll shift in, say, a Sam Constance from McSweeney? McSweeney can come back in another time. He's had a taste of Test cricket. Let's give Constance a taste of Test cricket. But a lot of questions that need to be answered. Australia have an Ashes series next year. Kawaja, to me, looks like the juice is gone. I think there's no more juice in that lemon. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a tough one for the Australian think tank because I remember 91, 92, the last time India played a five test series in Australia. The first four test, I think start of 91, Jeff Marsh was one of the top batters for
Yeah,
Australia. He was even Australia's vice captain at the time. But by the end of the series, the Australian selectors lost patience with Jeff Marsh and replaced him with another Wayne Phillips, not the one who
I
played in the
remember.
80s. Yeah, and I still remember reading about how Alan Border took on the selectors and said, "I will not lead the side in Perth, the final Test match." But ultimately, he had to bow down to the diktat of the selectors, and you ended up
Mm.
having Wayne Phillips, who never played for Australia again. So we've had something like that happen in the past. We've had situation where the selectors have taken a call, whether it is with David Boone or Mark Waugh
I
or the
think
other.
I think But I think George Bailey's shown he's a bit nicer. Like this selection panel, they let Aaron Finch basically play until he couldn't hit it off the square. David Warner, they let play till the end. Like I think these selectors don't do that. I agree with you. Sometimes you just got to say, you know what, stuff it. It's done. Like we need to get new blood in here. And yeah,
Yeah,
I think there's big questions over Kawaja.
I think you're right about Kwaja, and you're right about the selectors being nice. I think that most selectors around the world, like say, take England for example, they lost a Test series in Pakistan. If it was the 80s or the 90s, they would have changed the entire squad, but
Mm.
they didn't because I think most selectors around the world have become much more understanding of the situation, which is very surprising. And I think with Kwaja, they're in a bit of a bind. What do we do? Whether they let him play out the series. So the question is whether they want to throw a new opener in the deep end in Sri Lanka, or gently ease him into Test cricket right from Australia and then bring him into Sri Lanka, because Sri Lanka will be a different challenge because you've got Prabhat Jayasuriya waiting for Australia with his
Yeah.
left arm spin. The whole of India is hoping that Prabhat Jayasuriya weaves his magic around Australia so that India gets into the World Test Championship
Mm.
final.
I think even it's not going to matter too much. I think it's mostly going to come down to this series. But anyway, I think you're right. So big questions for Kawaja. Um, so going into day three of the test, really, Australia in command. Their best chance of a result really is to bowl India out quickly in the first innings. If India bats well, then you would imagine this game will be a draw. If India can, make above 350 bat for sort of day and a half, with the rain that's forecast, that should be enough for India to save this match. What do you think?
It should be, but they haven't done enough with the bat in the series so far, and it's really that particular fact that is going to hurt India. They are down in confidence. Most importantly, their skipper is down on confidence.
I know.
I think but I go back to reference with history. 91, 92. Azharuddin was down in confidence, but then he came out in Adelaide and played a blinder of a innings in the fourth innings and almost chased down 370 in the company of Prabhakar. So it's happened in the past when Indian skippers have been under pressure. They've come out and done well. A lot of stories, lots of such instances in the past as well. But I think this is a bridge too far right now for Rohit Sharma, and the Indian team appears to be completely low on confidence. Shubman Gill's hardly crossed 40 outside Asia since that innings of 91 in Brisbane in the second innings of the 2021 Test match. Rohit Sharma has not scored any runs. Virat Kohli scored 100, but the way he got out in Adelaide, that tells you a story of itself. So it's basically down to Jaiswal, Pant, and to some extent Nitish Kumar Reddy. You can't hope to counter this Australian lineup with two and a half, three batters. You need more. So If miracle has to happen, it has to happen twice. Then I'll start believing in miracles.
I like that. Well, you're very pessimistic. I get it. I think there's still a lot of good cricket left in this Indian team. If they can get out of the Gabba, then they head to the MCG, a ground where they have a lot of fond memories. They're going to have a lot of support there, and then you see them at the SCG on a spinning SCG pitch. Chandresh, it was great to talk to you about the second day. A great day for Australia. Australia hadn't passed 400 in Test cricket for exactly one calendar year. So thank you to India for playing us back into form. Uh, I'm going to be toasting to Steve Smith tonight. Where can the listeners catch up with you on social media? Where can they direct all the Rohit Sharma fans? Where can they direct their mail?
So they can troll me on Twitter or X at Chand2579 and on Instagram on Chandresh Narayanan. That's my handle on Instagram. And on YouTube, I am on Cricket Chronicles with Chandresh. So anywhere you can come, I'll be waiting for you guys.
All right, Chandresh. Well, let's catch up later on in the series when we see how this Indian team goes, and we'll see how much longer Rohit Sharma survives. Listeners, thanks for tuning into Cricket Unfiltered. Don't forget to rate and review, and I'll be back after day 3.